I had a goal, and that was to see how profitable Heist was. Now, people have done this in the past, and I've seen numbers, and I've seen people say, yeah, Heist is really good, but I wanted to actually find out for myself. Most of the time when I give you guys information, it's backed up by my actual own personal testing. I spend the time, I do what I need to do, and I get you the most accurate results that I possibly can. So that's what I decided to do with Heist. Now, there was a little bit of criteria that I wanted to set for this entire goal. I originally wanted to do 100 unusual gems blueprints. However, we found out that that was going to take quite a bit longer than I wanted to spend, and we realized about halfway through that we got more than enough data that we needed, so we decided to cut it at 60. And I wanted to see how much money could we make, what did it cost to actually get into it, and how easy was it? Did we need a really strong character? Did we need a simple geared character? Was it going to take forever? There was all of these questions that we had, and well, we have gotten our answer. It turns out that Heist, in pretty much every single way, is extremely profitable. But there are a few problems, the main one being that a lot of people really don't like the Heist mechanic. Now, Heist League was a very interesting league when it released. It was the longest league in recent time. It was a total of 4 months as compared to 3 months on most leagues that we have. It released in probably one of the most buggy states that we've ever seen a league release in quite some time, and it was also not exactly the most popular. There are many reasons for this, but most of it came down to the fact that doors are slow and people don't like going slow. However, there have been quite a few changes to Heist over the months, and now that Heist is in kind of a good spot, I wanted to give it a full test. Hey guys, Big Ducks here, and welcome back to the channel. Now remember, if you're enjoying this style of content, make sure that you like this video so that YouTube knows to recommend you more of it. Also, over 73% of you are still not subscribed to this YouTube channel, so if you're enjoying my particular style of content, make sure that you subscribe so that these videos will show right up in your feed, and you can always change your mind later. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright boys, so there is a ton to go over in this video, so remember there are going to be timestamps and chapters down below this video, so if you want to jump to a specific section or you need to cut back to something else, make sure that you check those out. Now, to get you up to speed, if you haven't been following over my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/bigducks, which you should go follow by the way, we have been doing a bunch of heisting. We spent probably a week, maybe a week and a half working on this, prepping up, figuring everything out, and then actually running the contracts and the blueprints. Now, I had a previous video where I showed you deception contracts, and that was literally just preparing for this video. You can find that video linked up in the top right corner now. That is about deception contracts with Gianna. You can make some pretty serious currency just doing that, not even the full strategy, just preparing for the final strategy. And what we were doing there is we were unlocking blueprint reveals, which I'll talk about more in the actual section about heisting and how to set up your rogues and all that kind of stuff. We were getting as many reveals as we could. Now, the goal here was originally supposed to be running 100 unusual gems blueprints. However, we found out that it takes a little bit of time to run these, and we kind of figured out how much money we were going to make at around the 60 mark. So we made a pretty decent amount of money, and that amount of money was roughly 100 Exalt total. Now you're probably seeing this tab and you're like, Big Ducks, I don't see 100 Exalt here. Well, the idea is that all 5, maybe 6 of these tabs are also included in here. There is quite a bit to go through as well as a bunch of gems. Now, I do want to let you know, I have actually pulled some money from this, so it's even more than what you see here, but I have pulled a little bit of money. I have 2 currency tabs, and we've kind of been creating another character recently, but forget most of that because this is going to be the majority of what we did. Now, the vast majority of that money is going to come from raw Exalts as well as stacked decks. Now, we did also find a lot of primary grading lenses, we found a bunch of secondary regrading lenses, as well as a bunch of just generic currency, right? A ton of divine orbs, a ton of ancient orbs, all kinds of good stuff we found from heisting. Now, I do want you to keep in mind as well, we are at roughly 100 Exalt. However, that is not including any of these gems. All of these gems are not included in that price tag. So we did a little bit of math, and all of these gems at this time are worth roughly 30x, maybe a little bit more than that, it really depends, but we were very, very fair with that pricing. Any one of them that I didn't think would actually sell, I decided not to actually put into the pricing. So, however, 100 Exalt in just raw items and currency, and that was from 60 blueprints. Now, if you're wondering about how long it took, I did, I think, 4 sessions of about 5 hours each. So in roughly 20 hours, we made over 100 Exalt, and that wasn't even like going as fast as I possibly could. Those were stream hours. We did it all live on Twitch. You can go check the VODs if you want to see anything about that. We did around 15 blueprints a day in about that 5 hours. That was a little slower than if I was really pumping them, so we probably could have done more. The blueprints were 3 or 4 wing unusual gem blueprints. They were either eye level 81, 82, or 83. We specifically bought them at that price. We either bought them off of the TFT Discord or I bought them from chat. That was the easiest way to get everything done in the amount of time that we wanted to without it taking even longer than it did. So that's how much that we made. Easily over 100 Exalts in just a couple of days of playing. Absolutely ridiculous amount of money. And a lot of that is just in basic currency. I mean, you can see we've got 2,200 jewelers. I've spent a lot of chromatics, a lot of fusings. I've spent a lot of stuff out of here. But we got an absolute massive amount of currency, as well as all of these tabs. Now, one big moneymaker that was kind of interesting were these Fertile Catalysts. Fertile Catalysts are actually roughly 12C each right now, and we got quite a few of them. I've used quite a few of these as well, but like 20 to 30 of these is what we found. And then all of these fossils, I've used a bunch of these fossils too. We found a ton of scarabs. We actually sold a lot of the scarabs already just to make profits early on. And we found a bunch of divination cards. There's some actually pretty good ones in here, like the Saint's Treasure. There is a couple very good ones. I don't exactly know where they're hiding, but we have like, let me see if I can find them. Yeah, so another Saint's Treasure. We found a couple patients. We actually found a nurse too. Yeah, here's the nurse. So we found a nurse card, we found the sacrifice card, some hoarder cards, a whole bunch of really good stuff. We did sell most of our giant gems that we got. One of the biggest gems that we got was an alt quality ice spear, which sold for like 6 Exalt or something like that. Beyond that, we found, I think, a cyclone, which was around 3 Exalt, and then a bunch of righteous fires, which were around 1 Exalt each. So those ended up being about 10 Exalts of the profit, maybe a little bit more than that roughly, of just the big gems. But as you can see, we made some pretty nice profits. This is all just specifically from heisting. Everything in this tab and everything in all of these tabs, as well as some extra stuff that I didn't actually like properly count. So tons of money. Now you're probably wondering, well, what did you do? How did you do it? And how can I do it? Well, I made a build guide video for this. You can find that linked up in the top right now. I use some very simple gear. You don't even need this much gear. You can very, very easily use a tabula rasa as well as a quill rain and be perfectly fine. And the reason being, you don't really need to do damage to be able to do this strategy. This is a very low investment strategy that you can start with some basic gear. I'm talking like a tabula, maybe even corrupted for +2 AoE if you really want to get fancy, a thief's torment, quill rain, and then maybe like 50 to 100 chaos to invest in contracts. You can start with that, and in the course of about a week or two, work your way up to 100+ exalts. It doesn't really matter who you are. As long as you have that amount of time and you are a somewhat competent player, you can do this too. Now keep in mind, that's if you are able to source all of the contracts and all of the blueprints. TFT or the Forbidden Trove Discord is going to be the best way for you to buy these in bulk. It's significantly easier to buy them in bulk on there. I did have a little bit of an easier time. I mostly bought them from chat just to make things go faster so that stream wouldn't sit there and watch me buy stuff for hours. So Toxic Rain Raider, very, very good for this strategy. Very easy to get going. It doesn't require a lot of gear to work. So we are going to actually jump over into the Rogue's Harbor and I will show you everything that you need to know. Now, first off, I want to talk about how to actually unveil these blueprints and how we're going to set them up and what you should be choosing before you actually run them. We'll talk about the rogue's gear, we'll talk about all that kind of stuff. So at the very beginning, you're going to want to follow my other video that I talked about earlier about doing deception contracts. You're going to want to do enough deception contracts that you can unlock some Gianna unveils. So when you put a blueprint into this little slot right here, you will get access to this window here. If you click over to the right, you'll notice that Gianna has a 40% discount. Now with some rogues gear, you can make that a little bit of a better discount. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then you also do have Niles. However, Gianna is the main one that we're looking at. Now the main reason to run deception contracts, besides them just being profitable, is that you get these Gianna reveals, which is going to save you a ton of money in the long run. The reason being is that when you actually unveil these, you'll notice that each wing is roughly 2,000 coins. So when I was originally doing this, I don't exactly know the price now, I guess I can check. Coins were roughly 400-ish to 1 chaos. So the idea being is that if you're spending 2,000, you're spending about 5 chaos each time that you're unveiling one of these wings. And that is if you're using Gianna. Because if you look at Wakano, his prices are significantly higher. We're spending almost double that to be unveiling these. And as you unveil each of these, the price does go up. So what we were doing is we were taking each of these blueprints and we were making sure to unveil all of the wings. So here we'll see that this is the cheapest one, but after we click that, do you see how the price goes up quite a bit? This is now 2,700 and this is 2,800. So we'll do this one next, and then this one last is 3,300. So we have spent roughly, I don't know, about 5, 10, maybe almost 15C, maybe a little bit more than that, just revealing these wings. I did eventually start using Gianna unveils on these little rooms as well. However, at first I was using Wakano unveils. We just realized that we weren't going to run 100 of them, so I started using them. Now, as for the rooms that you should actually be unlocking, there is sort of a priority. I think that the #1 most important room out of any of the ones that you can do here are going to be divination card rooms. The reason for this is that the vast bulk of the currency that I made in deception contracts, as well as this here, was pure exalts, and then right behind that was divination cards as well as stacked decks. So the goal here is that you're going to be selling these stacked decks in very large bulk, meaning hundreds at a time. So you can get anywhere from 2 to 2.5 chaos per stacked deck if you wait for the right people to be online and you sell to them in bulk. So as you saw before in my inventory, I had roughly 800 plus stacked decks that I still haven't sold. I've gotten way more than this. We've sold thousands of stacked decks at this point, all for around 2 to 2.5 chaos each. Stacked decks are going to be your main source of currency. The next room that I feel is very close is going to be currency rooms. These 2 rooms are the most important. Following a close third is going to be the Harbinger rooms. This is going to be giving you Exalt shards. As far as I know, mirror shards can drop out of here, but it's insanely rare. I never saw one. And then the other one that is going to be important are the Metamorph rooms. Now, the reason for this is that Metamorph rooms can drop Catalyst, and some of these catalysts are actually worth a decent amount of money. As I said before, the main one is going to be Fertile Catalyst, but the rest of these catalysts are anywhere from like 0.5 to 1C, and if you're selling them in bulk, you can probably charge 1C each. So you make a decent amount of money back on those. The other rooms beyond those that I did reveal were the fossil rooms, and that is about it. I really didn't do any other ones. So as a recap, divination card rooms, currency rooms, harbinger rooms, metamorph rooms, and fossil rooms. Now there is one more room that is good, I just don't really know where to place it, and that's going to be delirium rooms. Now the reason why the delirium reward rooms are good is because they are going to occasionally give you very, very good items. Over the course of a very long time, you will make your money back on these delirium reward rooms. Like, I found 3 cluster jewels worth more than an exalt in those 60 blueprints, and then I found a bunch of cluster jewels that were worth like 40 to 50, maybe 5 of those. So over time, you will get your money back, but the delirium reward room is not a consistent currency room whatsoever. It is just going to be big, giant bursts of currency, essentially. So you might be able to remove these if you don't want to spend more coins. However, in the long run, they are still going to be worth it. Now, that is most of what you need to know. So I'll show you here. We're going to use Gianna Unveils. So if we were doing this, I would go currency, harbinger. Those are both good. Currency, divination card there, and then we can do fossils, and that's probably about it. Now, there are a couple other rooms that can be profitable, but it depends on what you're wanting to do. These fragment rooms can be good because you can get like shaper fragments and elder fragments and things like that, but on average, I found that those didn't drop very often, and it wasn't really worth spending like 1,500 coins on them, and for the most part, on average, they didn't really end up working out too well for me. So this is fully revealed for what we want to do, and now we have our blueprint. Now, I was doing these in massive bulk, so I was doing this like, a lot of them at a time, but I'll show you the basic idea. So on this particular build, the modifiers that are bad for us would be dodge, meaning that we have less chance to dodge. Things like no regen would be pretty bad, less recovery would be pretty bad. The alarm going off immediately, we're looking for those kinds of mods that were pretty bad. So what we would do is we would just scour these. You can run them white, but I do suggest that you do invest a little bit more currency and try to roll them yellow. Now, on this one in particular, it's more monster life, it's -5 fire resist per 25 alert level, less life recovery rate is actually kind of bad for this build, and reduced flash charges is very dangerous if you don't have a corrupt blood immunity. But I would probably still run this, and we'll just keep this one as is. Then the less life recovery rate is pretty rough, but more monster life doesn't matter. We're not worried about damage here, we're just worried about moving fast, moving through, and getting it done. Damage is almost irrelevant, that's why this is so easy for pretty much any build. Raiders are just very good for this in general. Dodge is very good for this in general, as well as phasing. So we have our blueprint ready. Now we need to talk about the actual rogues and how you're going to gear them and what you're going to want to do. So out of the rogues here, by far, when it comes to the blueprints, the most important rogue, without fail, without doubt, is going to be Vendiri. He is by far more important than any of the other ones, and Vendiri is this old man, if I can find him. I don't exactly know where he stands back here. Vendiri. This guy is by far the most important out of all of the rogues. The reason being is that he has a modifier that says chance to duplicate the contents of a chest. I actually did get an Exalt duplicated from a chest from him in the course of these blueprints. That was the biggest duplicate that I got from him, but he was duplicating just like random chests with a bunch of fossils in it. I had him duplicate like 5 chaos one time. Lots of good stuff. He's just going to give you a ton of currencies. So Vendiri is definitely one of the more important rogues, and you should put some decent gear on him. The main things that really matter are going to be these brooches as well as the cloaks. These two items can be important if you want to move faster, like you can get like a weapon on them that'll give you a haste aura and things like that. I didn't worry too much about it because I was gearing so many rogues. The other rogues that are going to be important, I would say, are Karst, Nanette, and Talina. These three are going to be the ones that actually prevent you from having your alarm going up too high. Mainly Karst is the best one for this. Talina and Nanette are both okay. Nanette is actually better than Talina in my opinion, but these three are the other rogues that are quite important. Beyond that, the only other two rogues that I think are even somewhat worthwhile are going to be Tibbs and Niles. You never want to take Gianna if you don't have to. Isla is not super useful, but you're gonna have to take her sometimes. Huck is almost a never take him because all he really does is give you more experience, which is nice, but the other rogues are going to give you better buffs. So those are the rogues that you should be looking to try to take with you at any given time. Now let's talk about the actual gear itself. So these brooches. The main thing that you are going to be looking for in these brooches is going to be heist chests have a chance to duplicate contained basic currency. This is by far the most important mod on the entirety of them, right? These are super important. Basic currency is going to include stacked decks. It's going to be any just basic currency that can drop out in the world, meaning anything from a transmutation orb all the way to a mirror. It includes Exalts, it includes Chaos Orbs. So the idea is that if you drop some random basic currency, you got a 14% chance to duplicate it when your rogue has this on them. Now beyond that, any other duplicate is a positive thing to have, as well as job speed. Those are the main things that you're looking for. The next most important item is going to be their cloak. Now the cloak is mainly important for reduced raising of alert level. You want to get as much of that on these as you possibly can. Now I haven't super min-maxed this gear on most of my rogues, but you'll see some of them are better than others. Like this one is a 5% reduced raising alert level plus the 5% reduced raise of alert level from opening chests. You can also get plus the level of job levels, which is pretty solid for a lot of the rogues. Like that would let you take maybe Nanette for a level 5 counter thaumaturgy instead of having to take Niles. That would be pretty solid if you wanted to get one of those. There's a couple different things that you can do with that, but it's not really super important. And then that is the bulk of what you want to care about when it comes to the rogue's gear. Like I said, the other two pieces of gear that you can get is you can get a weapon, and this will give you things like maybe you could get a haste aura if you put it on like some arrowheads or something like that. And you also can get the main item here, which you can get some pretty decent stuff on this, but it's not as important as everything else. You can get like job speed, you can get job levels, things like that, and it's all quite good. Now the last thing to talk about is going to be the actual level of the jobs for the rogues. You are going to want to max these out as soon as you possibly can. Having all of them at all of their max levels is very beneficial because you're going to need these to be able to do most of the contracts and most of the blueprints. As you'll see here, this blueprint requires level 4, 4, 3, 5, and 4. Now back before in Heist League, these were actually pretty rough to level up. Now it's significantly easier. You can just run a couple contracts and that will get most rogues to level 5. It really doesn't take that long anymore. You can get these contracts through someone like Wakano. He does sell them occasionally. They are only level 67, but you can get some pretty decent ones in here. Run a bunch of those, get them leveled up, and that is going to be a pretty decent way to deal with that. So the last thing to talk about is going to be this Thief's Trinket. These are not as important as you might think that they are. A lot of people are going to say, well, you could get the Exalt Trinket, the one that turns like Regals into Exalts or Chaos into Exalts, but if you go look at the price of those, they're super expensive. In the entire course of the time that I was running all of these, I got roughly 83 Regal Orbs. That would even out on average with a 4% Regal to Exalt Trinket in 3 Exalts. So out of 130 roughly, I would have maybe barely made my money back on what I would have paid to actually get that trinket. So something that you could do is you could buy the trinket at the start, farm this for like a week or two, and then sell the trinket back. I don't know that the trinket's going to actually sell back. If you really wanted to make your money back on the Chaos to Exalt Trinket, those are like 60 to 80 Exalt right now, so I don't know if you have that kind of money. If you got that kind of money, you probably don't need to be running Heists, so don't really think that they're too super worth it. The easy one that I was able to get was just Jewelers into Fusings. Fusings are worth a decent amount right now, and then Alteration Orbs into Alchemy isn't super useful. It doesn't really do very much because alterations just don't drop in here. So that is mostly it for the gear. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about is actually getting the rogues. Now that you know what they do, we're going to put them on the table. We're going to have to run up to the table here. We're going to have to place this blueprint down, and you're going to get this window. And you're going to see there's a bunch of different options to choose rogues and put them in here. This is going to be a pretty good set of rogues for making sure that we're able to open a ton of chests. So Perception, you're always going to want to try to choose the best rogue at any given time. So I know that this isn't going to be correct at first, but we'll change it later. So I would choose Karst here, right? So if you can see, Nanette says, can scout enemy nearby patrols and elite patrols. That doesn't really matter, but she has 20% less raising of alert level. Karst has 40% less raising of alert level, right? So we'd choose Karst. And then the next thing we're going to notice is we got lockpicking. Well, Karst is actually the only one that can do lockpicking. Having him in here twice like this doesn't actually benefit us. So we're going to go back to here and we're going to choose Nanette. So now we have Nanette and Karst, and then for agility, we are needing a level 3 agility, I think is what it says here. Now, if we had +1 levels of job on Karst, we could put him in here. However, we're going to put Talina because this gives us 3 different rogues. So now we have a ton of less raising of alert level, 20%, 40%, and then 14%, as well as additional heist targets from secret reward rooms. It's not too big of a deal. Now moving on to the next one, something very similar here again. Same exact rogues, all in a row. And then this is where we're going to have something a little bit different. So when it comes to trap disarmament, Vendiri is our boy. He is by far the best. We always want to take Vendiri whenever we can. Same thing's going to happen here. We're going to be taking Karst and Nanette. And then lastly, we're going to have Demolition here. And we could choose between Vendiri and Tibbs. However, as I said before, if you ever have the chance to take Vendiri, take Vendiri. Now this is a very good set of rogues for the entirety of this thing here. We have a ton of less alert level. We've got Vendiri plus a lot of less alert level. This is just a very good blueprint in general. Lots of good rooms, lots of good rewards. We've got lots of good rogues to bring with us, so we'll hit confirm plans. You can leave this in here, run back over here, and when you actually talk to Adia over here and prepare Grand Heist, it's already going to be ready for you. So we're going to pop this open, we're going to run a heist, and we'll show you how it goes. So now we are actually in the blueprint itself. So there are going to be 4 wings here. We can start with any of them. It doesn't really matter which one we're going to, but the thing to keep in mind is that we are mainly focused on just going fast. We don't care too much about killing things. We're just trying to open chests, get through this blueprint, and we don't really have to kill very much at all. Now, we have very good rogues, so you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard, that is the default setting for it, to move your map around a little bit, and then there's also going to be a setting in your UI that'll make it so when you hit tab, it'll move that back. So what you should be doing is looking around, seeing how many chests you want to open, currency, armor, harbinger, as well as these divination card ones. These chests, the armor's chests, are actually pretty decent. They're not amazing, and you should still choose them last. However, what I do want to say is that because we have such good rogues, we should be able to open all of these without very many problems whatsoever. Now, one other thing is that when you walk up to these doors, you can actually press the V key. So anything that you can interact with, you see how it says the little V next to it? You can hit V and they'll automatically open that, so you don't need to worry about clicking in the right spot or maybe misclicking. But you can kind of see how much currency, just physical raw currency, drops from all of these, yeah? So that's just 2 chests, and we're already at 3 chaos, 5 orbs of regret. Like, we've already made a decent amount of money just from 2 chests. Now, I know you can't see my actual alert level, but it is very low. We only got maybe 1/10 of the actual full alert level from that, and that is it. Now, as you can see right away, we're already getting exalted shards. I did make most of those exalts that you see from just raw exalt shards that dropped. I did sell like a couple big ticket items for a couple exalts, like maybe 6 or 7 of them were just raw exalts. However, the vast majority of them were just simply from actual exalt shards dropping. Now, in these armor's chests, there's a couple things to look for. Divination cards are one thing, and you can also see if there's any good enchants. Like Petrified Blood having reduced reservation is decent. You can use an add-on like Awakened PoE Trade to check these if you want to. Most of the time, the enchants aren't worth too much, but we'll keep on moving on here. So we have plenty of alert level that we can still work through. As you can see, we're not even halfway up. I know that you can't see it behind the camera. I mean, I could like move the camera, but we're not going to go through all of that. Okay, sometimes the rogues will get like confused like this. You kind of just have to reset them. So you just run away a little bit and then they'll go back to what they're doing. I don't know why that happens. It happens the most with demolition stuff. Anytime that you have to do any kind of demolition, anything, they seem to just get like massively confused. So these shards are not amazing, but a lot of the time you will get Exalt shards from those, and the Horizon orbs are actually pretty solid. They're not too bad. But then let's see about what we're going to be getting from these chests, because these typically are going to be the bulk of the money when it comes to actually getting our, essentially our investment back. Now, what you'll notice is that we've got a bunch of stacked decks here. So stacked decks are considered basic currency. So if you look at like the trinkets and stuff that we had equipped, if you have something that says that you can duplicate basic currency, it will work for that. So we got, let's see here, 9 stacked decks from that, as well as like a Wrath and a couple other things. These 9 stacked decks are worth like 20-something chaos. So we made 20-something chaos off of just that one little divination card room. So keep that in mind. I typically pick up all of the green items. These are just going to be the ones that get you a couple of the rogues markers, and then we're going to move on to the actual unusual gems. Now, I have kind of learned what these are worth just off the top of my head, just because I've spent so much time doing this. I've literally seen like 200 plus of these rooms, so I kind of know what all is worth what. Now, if you go over the actual item and you hold Alt, you'll get to see what the additional effect is. One thing to keep in mind is you do want to look at the level of the gem as well as the quality. This does actually matter a little bit if you don't find anything worthwhile. Now keep in mind, most of the time you're really not going to find anything worth more than like 5 to 10C. I personally, the way that I would check these is I just had another window up on a separate monitor that had just the trade website open. I would type in the name of it and I would search and just see what it was. I had it set so that it was not showing corrupted ones, and that would seem to be the best way. The problem with using things like Pee-wee Ninja is that with Pee-wee Ninja, the prices aren't always set properly there, and they aren't updated often enough, especially when they're low confidence. So the trade website tended to be the best option for me. So looking through here, I know that Anomalous Stormbrand isn't like super worthwhile. It's okay, but it's not like amazing. Divergent Icicle Mine is critical strike chance. From what I remember last time we looked at it, it also wasn't that great. We've got Anomalous Exsanguinate. We might actually take this one because I need it. I'm making an Exsanguinate build, and Anomalous Exsanguinate is actually the good one, so we might actually just take that. Anomalous Melee Splash. Something to keep in mind is that sometimes these are good, but you do need to remember that if there is an awakened version of the gem, a lot of the time it doesn't end up being worthwhile. And then the last one here is Divergent Herald of Agony. Chance to grant poison on hit, it's not super great, but Anomalous Stormbrand, I actually don't 100% know Anomalous Stormbrand off the top of my head, so I'm gonna look. So essentially what I would do is I would come over here, Anomalous Stormbrand, I would search that, and we would pop up and see that it's about 9 to 10C, and then it jumps up here. So this is something to keep in mind. You do need to scroll down a little bit, so you're gonna see 7 and you're gonna see 9, and these are 25 5 days ago. So something that you can do here is you can actually go into here. I would set corrupted no, and then I would set probably listed maybe up to a week ago at most, and then we'll search again. So we'll see 7, 19, 19, 30, 35. Now you notice that there's not very many of these, right? This is one thing to keep in mind, is that if there's like 5 of them that's ever sold and it's not really worth a lot, keep in mind these probably will not sell. So we're gonna jump back into the game now. The one that we are going to grab is going to be Anomalous Exsanguinate. This is the one that I want for my build, so I'm going to just grab it. Now keep in mind, we do have a lot of alert level that you can see a whole bunch of the bars still available down here. What you ideally would do is you would just open these simple chests. However, in the essence of time, we're just going to go ahead and grab it. So you need to click this twice to get it to drop. You grab it, and then you run like a bat out of hell, just trying to get out of here as quickly as you can. We're not really worried about doing very much except escaping. Now, do keep in mind that if you have Tibbs or if you have Niles with you, you can open an additional chest with them. That is one of their benefits that they do have. They will allow you to open a couple extra chests, so you can use that to your advantage if you don't have, say, like Great Rogues or something like that, and you can't open all the chests that you want to. So that's something to keep in mind. Most of the rest of the rogues don't matter too much. Isla can give you some more time. Those little circle abilities right there are by far the most dangerous out of anything that you're going to see here. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. So when it comes to agility contracts and it comes to agility stuff, on a dodge build, you can actually just run through these, and they're not going to hit you that often. You see how I got hit there? What you can do that's super safe is, normally you would click this and Talia would just run through it, right? Well, what if we just do it ourselves? Ooh, Good example there. You saw how much damage that did to me? That almost killed me, just one of those little red orbs. However, as I was saying, you can just stand here on this little circle here and just do her job for her. She's not really super useful because you can literally just do her job for her. But that was actually a really good example. I'm lucky that it hit me and didn't kill me. But that's the idea. Now, I have one final tip for you when it comes to running these. A lot of people back before didn't realize that you can leave during the middle of this, and this stays open. So say your inventory gets super full, right? Like you've got a ton of stuff in here. You can come over here, hold control while clicking him, and it will just immediately open his inventory, sell all the big stuff, and then set up your tabs properly so that you can just sit here and just dump, right? Like you can just click these and you don't have to worry about absolutely anything. Dump all of it into the tabs that it needs to be, move this into its own separate tab, and then just keep on keeping on. Now we're not gonna do all of these because it's gonna take way too long. That is for the most part all that you really need to know to be able to do this strategy. So as a kind of a recap, you're going to want to run deception contracts to get Gianna unveils. You're going to want to make sure to gear all of your rogues. You're going to want to actually run unusual gems blueprints. Try to get an idea of what's worth what. Focus on the chests that I told you. Divination card chests are very, very potent. They do give you a ton of money. Currency chests are very good. Harbinger chests, as well as the metamorph chests, fossil chests, and then you can open up the armor chests sometimes if you'd like, and fragment chests can be okay if you've got nothing else to open. So to remind you the amount of money that we made from this, and keep in mind this is including all of the money that we spent to get this going. This is all included, right? This is pure profit that we've made, is roughly 130 Exalt total if we count all of the stuff that's in here and we count all of the stuff that's in here. If all of these sold and we priced it pretty fairly, like things that were only like 4 or 5 even existed and no one's gonna buy them, we just didn't include those in the numbers, was roughly about 130 Exalt. I feel like that's pretty good for just like a week or so of just playing through Heist, playing about 5 hours a day, not pushing it too hard, with a relatively cheap build. I mean, look at like my gloves. These are literally item level 40 gloves. I've just got a random belt. My bow is good, but you don't need to use this bow. You could use Cool Rain and it would work perfectly fine. You don't need the helmet. You don't need any of this stuff. Like, you don't even need a Kintsugi. And that is going to be it for the video. So hopefully you've learned quite a bit in here. Hopefully I've convinced you to play a little bit of Heist, because I personally kind of found Heist to be pretty fun after, you know, not playing it for 6 months. We were forced to play Heist for 4 months straight in Heist League, and I kind of got tired of it then. But with all of the changes, the updates to how the doors work and all that kind of good stuff, it doesn't feel too bad nowadays. So remember, boys, if you do have any questions, make sure to join my Discord. It is linked down in the description. There is a ton of helpful community members over there. All the fun that actually happens over in my Twitch streams at twitch.tv/bigducks continues over in the Discord. Bunch of people to hang out with, bunch of people to answer questions, so make sure that you check those out. Links are down in the description. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure that you say hi to Douglas. He's been around. He used to sit over on the keyboard back there, but we moved him back up here because I think he needs a little bit more of a spotlight. So make sure that you say hi to Douglas down in the comments. And also, if you enjoy this content, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content similar to this, and stay safe out there in Rayclast. And I'll see you guys in the next video.